Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Harvey Jurgen with Simple Solutions Real Estate in Columbus, Ohio, and I'm here with Christi Hawkins again, Classes with Christi. And today we're talking about what is a cash buyer? What might it look like if I am a homeowner and I'm getting contacted by cash buyers or real estate investors? And what if I'm considering going with one of them? And I just want to preface this class with these are very general terms, estimates, if you will. They're not exact and they're not absolutes. Your experience might look different. Businesses are different from other businesses. Their numbers are different. Their processes are different. Your experiences might be different. This is just a very general take on what the process may look like. So without further ado, Christi, what the heck is a real estate investor? What is a cash buyer?
Well, thanks for having me again, Harvey. A cash buyer, a real estate investor is somebody who buys a property at a discounted rate, fixes the home up, brings everything back to life, and then sells it for a profit. Or if they want to, keeps it as a rental.
And how are they getting my information?
They buy lists. In most cases, they buy lists. All this information is public, so there's nothing wrong with them having your information, unfortunately. So they either buy lists, they cold call, they send mail, they send postcards, and they also drive. It's called driving for dollars. And they drive around neighborhoods and they look for properties. And they can tell those properties by the way the house looks. It might be in disrepair. It might look like, there might be some deferred maintenance that hasn't been taken care of. And so they usually try to identify those properties. Absentee landlords is a good one. They look for those properties quite a bit of the time. And so they identify those properties and then they'll contact you that way.
Okay. All right. So what I'm hearing then is if I'm getting calls or texts or emails or postcards, it's because my house is wound up on a list for some reason, based on some sort of criteria, property.
Yes.
Equity or something.
Yep. Several criteria for the searches. Could be absentee landlord, I mentioned that. You could have a lot of equity in your home. You could have lived there for a certain amount of years, and so they assume you have a lot of equity in your home. Lots of different reasons why you may end up on that list.
Okay. And or if I'm not on a list, then they've driven by my house and they are interested in buying it for whatever reason. And now
yes.
All right. And are there a lot of companies out there? Are there just a handful? And are they all very similar, or do they run the gamut?
They run the gamut. They're all, yes, there are a lot of companies out there doing this. Okay. And they run the gamut. They, as with any industry, a lot of bad, a lot of good, and a lot of somewhere in the middle. Just, make sure you're asking the right questions. When somebody calls you on the phone, make sure you're asking the right questions. Be informed. Make sure, this is your house that you're selling. And
so they're calling me on the phone, and then they want to give me an offer over the phone. Is that suitable? And if they give me an offer on the phone, how likely is that to change later?
It's very likely to change. Very likely. A lot of people operate that way. I personally, I don't like it. Because you're not going to know what a property's value is until you've been in it, because you have no idea what the repairs are. You have no idea what that house needs. Does it need, kitchen and bath? Does it have 3 baths that are completely right out of the 1960s? So, and I personally, I think you want somebody that's going to come to your house and look you in the face and be honest with you and upfront with you. So yes, that offer, I would say 8 times out of 10 changes once they get to your house. So don't get married to the offer they give you over the phone.
And probably down,
always down. Well, I shouldn't say always. It's never always. Okay. But yes, most likely it's down.
Okay. So whether we're having a conversation over the phone about my house or whether we're having a conversation in the house about my house, what are some of the questions? I'm assuming that as a homeowner, I want to ask intelligent questions and I want to do my research and due diligence ahead of time. What are some of the questions that I should ask?
Some of the questions you should ask are, first of all, you want to find out if this company is true. You want to find out if this company can do what they say they're going to do. There's a lot of small companies out there that you may or may not ever heard from, and that's okay. There are some national brands that you may be familiar with. And so, again, you want to, whether it's small, medium, or large, you want to ask questions like, how long can you close? How long is it going to take for you to close? Am I going to have to make any repairs to my property, or are you going to take it as is? Am I going to have to bring money to the table to closing? Things like that. Who's going to pay for closing costs? You're going to want to ask those types of questions so that first of all, you find out if this company is really reputable and can do what they say they're going to do, and for your own benefit to know if you're going to have to bring money to the closing and what to prepare yourself for.
Yeah, those are good. And I've heard recently that for a homeowner like me, sometimes a property or a real estate investor will come out to my house and buy my house, but then they're not actually the ones that are buying it. Should I ask any questions or be concerned about that scenario?
You should, and not that this is bad in any way, because there's a place that we call that wholesaling. And when somebody is wholesaling a property, they're going to come out and they're going to get your property under contract. And a good wholesaler is going to disclose and explain to you what happens next. A good one. And what happens next is this: they have that property under contract with you, but they're going to, I'm going to use an industry term that I shouldn't. They're going to push that out into the market, and they're going to see what another buyer would pay for it. And then they're going to keep the difference between what they had it under contract for you and what they got it into contract for somebody else. That's all fine, as long as you know that's what's happening.
Yeah, so they're going to middleman, and it sounds like
middleman.
Question for me to ask is, okay, well, one, are you actually going to buy it? And if not, maybe that's okay. But what if you don't find a buyer? Are you still going to buy my house?
Correct. That's the biggest thing you want to know. Because at the end of 30 days, are they just going to say, sorry, I don't find a buyer? And then you're going to be left thinking, but I thought you were buying the property.
Right.
So yes, that's true. That's very important to know.
Okay. So to recap, a real estate investor is by some way or reason has identified my house as a house that they might be interested in purchasing. They're contacting me via phone or text message or by mailer, and they're interested in buying my house. I may be interested in selling to them. I've got a list of questions that I want to ask them. We know already that they're going to likely, if they're going to actually buy it, they're going to be the one who puts the work, fixes it up, and either sells it or rents it. If they sell it, are two questions here. One is, are they making a gigantic profit on this? And two, should I care if I'm a person who is selling to or finds this solution useful? Should I really be concerned with how much they're going to make on the back end?
The answer to the first question is they're not. Yes. Is it possible that they buy your house at a discounted rate and fix it up and sell it for an enormous amount? Yes, that's always possible. But on the average, they're not making a fortune. They're not making a fortune off your house. And you have to remember that, they're the ones taking all the risk, because they could make nothing, get stuck with it. Construction could go on for 8 months while they're paying all the, because they're paying the taxes on this property. They're paying all the utility bills. They're paying to maintain your home while they have it under construction. I'm going to use an average amount of about $18,000, and that could be over a period of 3 to 4 months. Right. So no, I don't think that's enormous. Yeah. And B, should you care? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know why you should care. As you got what you wanted out of it, and hopefully you're happy with the terms that you negotiated. And then what happens after that, you're not really concerned with, because again, they're taking the risk. It may not be a home run. Everything may go wrong that could go wrong. Right. So it's not a sure thing.
Right. Okay. So in most cases, we're not talking about an exorbitant amount of money off of one deal, off of my home, for instance.
Right.
They are providing a service. Like you said, they're also taking the risk. They have their costs in holding the property and probably in selling the property that I just.
Oh, yes.
that I just don't see and that they're absorbing so that I can move on with my life. Now,
Correct.
it's all based on the pretense that this is a good solution for me, that it's something
Right.
that I can do and that it makes sense. Is how do I know, or yeah, how do I know if this is a good solution for me? And then maybe what are some, maybe two other options that I could compare selling to a cash buyer against to make that decision?
How do you know if it's a good option for you? It meets the criteria. What are your wants and needs when you go into this? What is your main goal? What are the things you have to have out of this transaction? Is it you just want to move to another school district and the school year's getting ready to start in 2 weeks and you just have to go and you want to go? Well, did that accomplish your goal? Yeah, it sure did. So, that was a need that was met. So the rest shouldn't really matter. And I'm sorry, I've forgotten what was the other second part?
What are some other options that I might have? Maybe two
Oh,
other options.
You could always get a realtor out there. If you want full retail value for your property, then an investor is not what you need. You're going to want to call a real estate agent. You're going to want to have them list it, because listing that property is going to be your best chance at getting full retail value. But along with that comes, all the showings. You're going to have to pay your closing costs. Plus, typically in this market, the buyer asks for closing costs to be paid. And then you're going to have to wait. The other thing is time. Do you have the time to wait? Because once a property goes into contract, you're going to have to wait another 30 days for the buyer to get their financing.
Right.
So you could be waiting, let's say, you could be waiting 60 days.
Right.
Whereas with an investor, you can close in sometimes 2 weeks.
Right. Yeah. And then another thing to consider is that I might have to do some of the repairs that I have.
You most likely will. Yes. Because if you want full retail value for your property, then your property better be in full retail condition.
So I can either, if I'm to compare against a cash buyer, I can consider having a realtor out and listing on the MLS and going that route. Or maybe I can do a for sale by owner or something like that.
You could try that for sure. You could try that. But again, that means you're doing everything yourself.
Right.
You're also taking on all the liability that comes with this. And it's something you don't know how to do.
Right.
So keep that part in mind as well.
Yeah, in theory, I don't know how to do it.
Correct. In theory, you don't know really how to do it.
Okay, excellent. Very helpful. I think that really sheds some light on what a real estate investor is, how they're getting a hold of me, what their motivations are, and then what I can do to protect my interest in the property, and some of the things that I should look out for. I want to reiterate and say again that these are very general terms. All the numbers and scenarios that we used are just general things that we use just to give you an idea about the process, and are absolutely not the same and are not concrete.
Right.
If you have additional questions about what it may look like to sell to a cash buyer or to a real estate investor, as they're sometimes called, please reach out to Christy or myself. Our contact information is below, and we'd be happy to chat with you. Thanks.
Happy to.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again for tuning in. Thank you, Christy, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.